The Garden of Ink and Bones is a monthly podcast about witchcraft, powerful plants, and making magic. I'm Belle of Belladonna and Bones, and I'll be joined by occult artist Rue of Old Omen, and we're witches who like to get our hands dirty. To us, magic is practical, visceral, and bound in blood to the soil and bones of our spiritual allies. It's time to get your hands into the dirt, do the work, make magic, and feel the witchcraft in your bones. Welcome to the Garden of Ink and Bones. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Garden of Ink and Bones. I'm Belle and with me is the lovely Rue.
Hi everyone.
It's exciting to be back.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we've been dead for winter.
Yeah, and I think I've said before, I don't do well in winter. I become a bit of a hermit.
Oh, 100%. I definitely feel like I'm the same as my garden. Everything goes dormant. And I always think I'm going to have these like nice, long, productive winter where I'm inside and I'm around the hearth and I'm doing all this magic while all my plants are like dormant for the year and I'll get all this stuff done. And I never do.
No, it's like I think it's just that period of gestation where, you know, the plants put everything and start to work down in the roots, and that's where I have to be as well.
Yep, 100%.
And, you know, we've actually been absent a lot longer than just winter, mostly because I started a new job, which was cuckoo bananas, and has been like it's just consumed my life. Like, yeah, I mean, you and I have been talking about it offline, but just you think you've got your dream job and it just turns into this behemoth that gets into every part of your life, and there's no ability to switch off from it. And yeah, I'm making exit plans because my dream job may not be my dream job. So yeah, that's what's going on with me. What about you?
It's funny because, you know, like we were discussing the other night, it feels like everything that you're saying to me that you've been through since we spoke last in January, it feels the same. It feels like we've both been going through these same motions of having, you know, stresses outside of life. With work, I've changed careers as well. Well, not like a career shift change itself, but I've moved to a different studio where I'm working for, which same thing, the last place I was at, I was like, oh, this is my dream job. And then it just turned completely ugly. But I also think in a sense that this is that shift that I needed to sort of, because I had a 3-month period downtime, to say to myself, you know, what's my focuses? Where do I want to go with this? Where do I want to go magically? Where do I want to put my energy into? And need to almost remove myself, I think we both are a bit of a workaholic. Mm-hmm. So it's been really good to be like, no, take a step back. And now I'm in definitely a way better place than I was, that I absolutely love, but it's allowing me to cater a bit more to what I need to prioritize. So yeah, it just feels like we've both been on this same weird roller coaster without knowing it.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because, you know, all the astrological podcasts and things I listen to were like, yeah, you know, we've just gone through the part of the year where, you know, make hay while the sun shines and stuff like that. And it's like, I just haven't had that at all. Like, maybe I need to go check where Jupiter is in my chart because it just hasn't felt like that. It has felt more like work myself to the bone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's been really interesting. And, you know, we're about to release this at the new moon in Scorpio, and that's like unexpected, erratic change, not erotic, and chaos and things. And it's like, well, that's what I've been living with. Yeah. So, you know,
just brace yourself for the tidal wave.
Yeah, kind of. It's really interesting because, like, I'm slowly trying to do more with astrological alignments. You know, I've always done timings based around planetary hours and planetary days, but really trying to think about where the planets are in the sky and what signs they're in and what house they're in is a lot deeper, and something I've been trying to get or level myself up on. So it is pretty it's a very intense area of study, and it's probably not ever going to be my focus, but definitely something that I feel I need to have as part of my arsenal as I get more alchemical um, with the herb working and things like that. So, yeah.
Whole lot of information for
Yeah.
to
In,
digest.
information overload.
Yeah.
So, to start with, we're starting a new tradition. It's our podcast teas. What's your podcast tea today, Rue?
So going back to, I think it was last episode, however long ago that was, is Beatty, and it's definitely all thanks to you. So last time Belle came to visit, she was like, "Oh my god, have you tried bay tea?" And I've had a bay tree growing in a pot that I've taken with me from house to house for close to 10 years now, and it had never occurred to me to actually try just a single bay leaf bruised and put into a teacup. And it's absolutely phenomenal. It's so much sweeter than you'd think. And then, you've got bay's properties of divination and hex breaking and protection and all the other things that go along with it. So that's my tea for today because I'm absolutely addicted to it. What do you got brewing up?
I've got peppermint and red clover. So
Mm.
I gravitated to the red clover because I was sick earlier in the week and just really, really asthma and bronchitis and stuff. So having a bit of red clover in there sort of just felt right, and peppermint just because it's been a long Sunday and need a little zing of energy to get through the podcast. And I'm drinking it out of a cup I made myself.
Ah,
So
very nice. Yeah. How has your
it's fun.
pottery been going?
Oh, just great. I've been doing a lot of sculpting and a lot of figurative sculpting and stuff through winter, which has actually been really good because it's a way to work through emotions. And I've been really enjoying it. So yeah, that's been my winter's work actually is sculpting.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen you've definitely been making some absolutely phenomenal creations for the garden.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll share some on the Instagram feed. Um, what else have you been doing? What's come into your life?
Everything and nothing. So it's spring, of course. So, I've been trying to get on top of the garden that I have very badly neglected during the winter. Everything's coming back to life. And for some reason, red clover has been one of those ones that I've just been obsessed with the last few weeks of putting red clover seed everywhere, all through the lawn as well, which I'm sure who we rent off will absolutely love that. But spring means that my beehive is just going nuts at the moment. So this morning was wrangling all the different animals that I own and then having to go through the beehive, cut out. I got these amazing pieces of wax that they've formed that I'm going to send a piece to Belle and I'll put some up on the Instagram for. But they've pretty much just expanded beyond their limits. So I've had to go in, take a bunch of stuff out to give them more space so that their hive can keep going without them swarming. But yeah, everything's awake. Everything seems like it's just demanding my attention at full force at the moment, which is absolutely wonderful after a very quiet, dark winter. So can't complain.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get my hands on that beautiful, beautiful
Mm.
honeycomb. Um, how long have you had the bees now?
I got them back in January of the year. So
Yeah.
this has sort of been my first wintering them and making sure that they actually survive. They're doing strong. I've got 2 brood boxes at the moment, and so I'm just about to start my second hive and give it a split. So they've expanded enormously, which is absolutely amazing. And something
No.
I found, a little tidbit I found in one of the books, I believe it was in Planting for Honeybees, which is a grower's guide by Sarah Windheim Lewis, which for anyone interested in bees in your garden, especially like magical gardens, you'll get a bigger yield out of your plants if you have a lot of pollinators around. So, we need more pollinators. But this little book talks about how to plant to just attract bees to your garden because a lot of our ornamental plants don't actually give you the right nutrition that you need to allow pollinators to survive. Funnily enough, like roses have almost no nutritional value and have no benefit. But something interesting that they mentioned, and I couldn't quite find it in the book to quote it directly, but they spoke about how bees can sense that flowers will put off a positive energetic field when they're ready to be pollinated or when they've been pollinated, one or the other. I wish I could find it directly, but I just found it interesting that plants are actually giving off a certain energetic frequency that the bees can actually detect, so they know when that flower is ready to be pollinated, and then that electrical charge will change once it's been pollinated, so the bees now know that they don't have to waste their time by stopping there.
Wow, that's fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like, we look at it from a magical point of view that the plants have energy, which makes sense to us, but I didn't realize that there are actually other beings out there that are sensitive enough to detect an electrical
Hmm,
charge. It's really cool.
that's crazy. So what has changed in the energy of your garden since you got the bees?
I definitely feel like everything is responding a lot better. I don't know if it's that I'm out in the garden more frequently, keeping an eye on everything, but I also think it's also helped me mentally shift to think about, adding more variety and what I should be supplying for them. But then, as well as a lot of our medicinal and magical herbs that we work with are great for pollinators too, like borage, for example. So it's definitely, I think, made me, if anything, bring on my hoarding instinct for plants a little bit stronger. Which I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm sort of waiting for my partner to have an intervention with me one day about the amount of plants that show up on a daily basis at my doorstep.
Hasn't happened to me yet, so it's all about the fact that we have the right partners, I think.
Yeah, that's it. And so what have you been up to? I believe there's a few interesting things that you've been up to
Yeah,
other than work.
so other than work, actually, because of work, I went over to Germany for just under a week in at the end of May, and it surprisingly tied in nicely with one of my interest areas, which is St. Hildegard of Bingen. Um, so I took myself from Heidelberg, where I was, and I got on the train, and I spent 2 and a bit hours on the train getting to Bingen, which is this beautiful little town on the Rhine River. Um, and Germany is surprisingly beautiful. Like, I kind of didn't expect it. I know I wasn't in Berlin or anything like that, where it's very industrial and stuff like that. But I was in Heidelberg, and it was picturesque, and it was just lovely. And one of the things you notice is that there's all the herbs. You forget that all of the herbs that we, see and want and covet, they're everywhere there, because that's where they grow. There was horsetail, there was Herb Robert was everywhere in Heidelberg, which was cute because I hadn't been able to take my partner, whose name is Herb Robert, and but that just you forget that these are common plants, roadside plants in Europe, and it was just incredible. And elderflowers, there are elderflowers everywhere. I was completely blown away. It was like, you sort of laugh because people say, take 3 kilos of elderflowers. I'm like, where am I going to get 3 kilos of elderflowers? I mean, seriously. But yeah, that was just amazing. But so I got to Bingen, which has hills around it, and I knew that there was a commune at the top of the hill for Hildegard, as well as up there was St. Roch's chapel. And so I got off and I decided I'd walk, and I kind of didn't realize it was up a hill, and it was 32 degrees, but I just powered on and kept stopping every once in a while. And along the way, I realized I was actually doing a saint walk, because all along the roadside there were different little places where you stopped, and there was a statue of a saint, and you could, I guess you would say a prayer there if you were so inclined, and make a connection with the different saints until you got up to the top, which was, there was like a little shrine to Saint Joseph, and but it was really great because all along the way there was all these different saints that you could sort of get in touch with. get up to the top, and the commune has got a little herb garden, because that's what Hildegard is known for, or one of the many things she's known for, is her love of medicinal herbs. And the garden was nice, and the commune was okay, but they were all it was all very, very, very Christian, like the commune part, like it was,
Yeah.
and which, understandably, right? But it just felt a bit cold to me. Plus, it was 1980s architecture with brown tile floors and stuff. It just there wasn't any life to it, or sense of history.
Yeah.
So anyway, I continued on to St. Roch's Chapel at the top of the hill, which overlooks some beautiful vineyards and things. And it was, so the main part of the church was closed, but I was able to go into, I think it's called the nave at the front, and it was blessedly cool after walking all the way up the hill. And there's a beautiful shrine to St. Hildegard inside. It's all golden and crazy. And I sat down, and because I was the only person there, and it's the middle of the day on a Friday, I turned on my phone one of the recordings of Hildegard's music, and I sat there and I prayed the novena for her, and it was just this intense spiritual experience, because you've got these amazing acoustics of the church, being the only person there in semi-darkness, like it was quite dark, there was no lights. It was blessedly cool after the outside temperatures, and it just felt amazing, like really that electric connection happened, and it was just so good, and I love St. Hildegard. I think she's just a bonkers amazing saint when it comes to things like visions and music, and working with herbs and healing people. But then I walked back down through the forest, and again, just all these trees and things that you and I have gone out of our way to buy rowan trees and hawthorns and things that are, just not common here, right? And
yeah, it's trip
just
over them
everywhere. That's it. They were just everywhere. So I sat at the lookout and ate my lunch, and just went down to the Rhine, where there was another museum of Hildegard, which was in an old church, but not a super old church, and it had all of her visions, all backlit, sort of reproductions of her illuminations, and they played the music. When I walked in, he said, "Would you like to hear her music?" And I said, "Yes, please." And he just turns the music on, and the whole place fills with it. Like,
wow.
it was just so good. And there's some beautiful sculptures of her, and there was another herb garden, which was just truly wonderful. This one just felt right, like someone cared about it, and someone, took the time to put the herbs in the right places, and it felt like a physicist garden, and it was just a really lovely experience. And I bought the last hand-made little silver pendant. The jeweler had died, and he'd made all these pendants of Hildegard. So, it's just that.
Wow.
And it was like, even that was a pilgrimage. It was, oh, well, we actually don't take card. So I had to go halfway across town to find an ATM and come back in the 34-degree heat. It was just so hot, and, waiting for a train to go past so I could cross the train tracks, and it was like a 25-minute wait. It was just crazy. Like, it was this real, not an ordeal, but there was a sense of effort in getting to Hildegard and all that she represented. And so that was great. Warning to anyone who decides to go, everything is in German. Like, the Germans don't seem to think that anyone who can't read German travels in Germany, which is fine, because I'm not the type of person that takes it for granted that everything will be in English. But the great thing is Google Translate on your phone now, you just point the camera at stuff, and on the actual photo on your phone, it translates the words into English. It
It's
is,
so crazy, isn't
oh,
it? We did the same thing when we were traveling there, and it's just so amazing to see it change and morph in real time. Like, it's phenomenal.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And in Heidelberg, there was the apothecary museum at the castle,
Oh, wow.
which was just amazing. I'm going to post all the photos to my Instagram because there was just so many interesting things. You know, there's belladonna and ambergris, you know, from Wales, and just all these amazing apothecary setups that have been donated to the museum. And
Wow.
because, you know, Germany's the home of pharmaceuticals. That's what the industry was. And yeah, just see all the different things that they used, and I was blown away. It was honestly, I crammed so much into 2 days, the 2 days I had free. And yeah, and it was really worth it. And Hildegard has been really important to me since I've come back as well. So
What a
yeah,
phenomenal experience. And I do agree, though. I think sometimes things that are worth that bit of extra effort, it makes it that little bit more special, makes you not really take it for granted quite so much. But having to go through that pilgrimage, like you said, it just sounds absolutely phenomenal.
yeah, there was just so much about it that was wonderful. And yeah, and I'll do a whole episode on Hildegard and talk about her life and work, and why, you know, if you're into herbs, she should be on your altar. Um, especially, I think, especially when you look at it from a herbs and visions angle, like she had waking visions. Um, which I think, you know, it's not necessarily because of any herbs she was taking or anything like that, not suggesting that. But I think that there's a real synergy there. So, yeah,
Oh,
we'll do a whole
totally.
thing on it.
Please do. I'm so keen for that episode. I hadn't come across her before until you just brought her up, and already I'm absolutely entranced.
Oh, she's hilarious. Like, she's a huge drama queen. Like, she'd get sick every time something didn't go her way. She would take to her bed. I was like, this is so cool. Yeah, so she was pretty hilarious, but also just immensely powerful, and did so many amazing things, and just her work on um, healing and all the books she wrote, and yeah, they're great. So anyway, we'll come back to that. I don't want to talk too much more on that for now. But
But yeah, so we've got a
yeah,
pretty exciting little plan for the next 28 days for us both.
yeah, we are going to do Circle Thrice's Lunation Rite.
Mm. I'm actually really excited for this because I am pretty much a walking ball of chaos. And I definitely have been sitting here lately, the past few months, going, I need more organization in my life, especially in my magical workings. And here comes Belle, and she's like, oh, well, have you heard of this?
I think we briefly touched on it earlier in the year, but
Very
basically, what?
briefly, but we didn't really
Yeah,
get anywhere.
yeah. For those who don't know, there's a lovely lady named Ivy, and she has a um, practical magic project management magic kind of blog called Circle Thrice, and she has some amazing free downloads and things. But she's also created this magical lunation rite of transformation, and it's about a daily practice, which, you know, we all have a daily practice, and how daily it is depends on a lot of things for a lot of people. But this is this is actually daily. This is something you're supposed to do. It involves using lunar timings, so starting at the new moon, then using the hygromantia's lunar timings and days, which I've spoken about here before, and also combining Orphic hymns um, and daily prayers. So it's literally a 15-minute thing each day, but it's to find those things in your life. And the power of doing, 28 days of prayer and 28 days of Orphic hymns is just, I think it's going to be amazing.
100%. I'm so incredibly excited for it, to be honest. And like, especially the fact that when you sort of read into what she's about, it's not really like, even though, yes, you have sort of set prayer, she makes it really flexible so that
Yeah.
you can instead put in your own practice. So it's not saying, hey, here's this thing that I've been studying for 20 years. Now you need to study it too. It's completely flexible to your own path and your own practice, and just sort of helping that guidance of remembering every single day. And just seeing, it'd be really interesting to see sort of the, I guess, the intent that comes out of magical workings when you've been putting a solid 28 days into something.
Yeah, and I think one of the things with it is that each day is not just worship. It's not worship. It's not just prayer. It's also a petition. Like you make a petition in line with the lunar day, and I think that you know listeners who have done um, the Rune Soup premium members will know that Gordon talks about more, like be selfish. Magic is the one place you're allowed to be selfish. Get what you want here, do what you want,
Yep.
because no one's out there judging you. And I think the forcing you to do a petition each day really helps you think about the things you want in your life, and you don't have to justify why you want them. You just say, look, bring me these things in my life.
Yeah, that's it. And it doesn't have to be, something grandiose. It
No.
can even be something small like peace of mind at work today, or, just small things like that. And also, I know she talks about with your petitions of like creating your own talismans and your sigils for that specific day. So I think it's, yeah, something really amazing that you can either go as hard or as little as you want with this to completely cater it. But as long as it comes back to that ritual of every day putting this intention in.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the petitions examples that she gives are things like, everything from the world is loving and pure, to I make um, gardens easily and copiously. You know, that's and then sometimes it's just I'm in charge of my own life. So those sort of things, I think it can be simple, and it can be non-selfish, or it can be selfish, or it can be something that you need to change, or just something you want to encourage, or yeah, I think that's the great thing. And then when you get to the days where they're for destruction and things like that, that's where you have things that you might need to get rid of in your life, which I think is great. So
Yeah, 100%. I think that's something that sometimes sort of people overlook in magic, or they sort of don't think about, is when it's like, the death card when it comes up in tarot. And, a lot of people suddenly sort of panic a little bit and sort of go, oh my God, what does that mean? But sometimes it's just removing something that's no longer needed, or clearing things out rather than looking at it from like a completely negative point of view. But I'm pretty, yeah. And she goes through as well of, we do a prayer each morning to the different deities relating to the week as well. So there is a lot of structural knowledge as well, which I think is something that I've been wanting for a while. So I'm quite intrigued.
yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting practice to go through. I did 7, probably nearly not 11 days, I think, of it when we talked about it in January, and um, then I started my job, and
Yeah.
my life just changed. But I think I started to feel it moving the dial. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's it. It's about enchanting the world around you, and really bringing all these things to bear. So
100%.
yeah, really excited.
Hmm. Very
I've
excited.
you know of course, in other news, and part of the enchanting my world and bringing all this back, I've reopened the store, and at belladonnaandbones.com, which is have had a great response from lots of really loyal customers, and I'm really grateful to see that they hung around for the 10 months the store has been closed. It just blows me away every time, like really does, just to see that people like the stuff, and that I can bring them something that they can use, and and assist them in their magic. Yeah, it's just awesome.
I'm very excited about Belle currently has a new batch of Fae Balm that she's created, which I'm absolutely excited for because it's something that I've worked with for many, many years now. So, do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because I'm absolutely in love with it already.
Yeah, I changed up the recipe. Um, I was working on it, and I was just, the previous recipe had a few essential oils in it, and it just it wasn't feeling as much of my garden as it should. So I changed it up, and it's now, it still has the same wormwood base for the connection, but it now has crabapple blossom and marshmallow blossom, rose blossom, hawthorn blossom, and hawthorn berries, as well as beeswax and the almond oil base. But it was just more about bringing those blossoms in, and those the flowers and the that sense of the ephemeral to that balm. And then it's topped with the flowers and also some rose quartz, which, and then it's packaged in these ceramic jars that I collected my last trip to Vietnam. So it's a very limited little edition of it, and yeah, I just wanted to do something a bit more special and that felt as ephemeral as the Fae feel to me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to try it.
Actually, you should tell people how your Fae have not been being very ephemeral and being very actual.
Yes, as always. So yeah, that's the thing. So I guess that's what I've pretty much been working with my entire life ever since I was a child. There's always been this weird obsession, but it's never been quite those, Glossamer Fae.
Mm-hmm.
But I, as you all know, sort of fell off the bandwagon during winter, which also meant I fell off the bandwagon with my devotion. So I've had a few funny instances where those little things that are annoying if they go missing because they're things that you commonly use. They're not essential things, but definitely things that just constantly irritate you have just been going missing. For example, my microphone for the podcast, completely gone. Cannot find it. Funnily enough, and I think this sort of, I don't know if anyone out there is very familiar with Brian Froud's works. He's the creator behind a lot of the designs for the Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal. But he's someone who will openly speak about his working with the Fae, but he, of course, as you know from folklore too, talks about how mischievous they are. So one friend that was staying with us, his underpants were taken. So case of the underpant gnomes, never shown up, just bunches of things. My ritual knife that I cut my herbs with, just important little things that no matter what, just can't seem to find them, whatever I do. But then, so I was like, okay, well, kick my ass into gear a little bit. Went down into the garden, gave my offerings, which I hadn't done in a while. And the next day, there was a single massive mushroom sprouted up exactly where I'd laid my offering down. So I sort of took that as there's a little bit of a white flag truce between us at the moment, but just a bunch of strange little things. And I was actually looking into so the woman who built the house that I live in was a local artist. And I'd sort of caught wind from some of the neighbors that have lived in this area for a long time and used to know her. But, me being quite curious, I dug up her obituary and found out that in her little art studio that I use as my own little art studio, she was actually creating artworks based around ghosts and spirits, and specifically the Fae. So that also sort of cottoned on to me that, maybe there's something lingering around that she used to feed that, as we know, if they're not fed, they turn into boggarts instead of brownies. And so I've placed a few things energetically out for them to feed off instead of me. And it seems like all the chaos has just stopped. It's completely neutralized everything. Everything feels more balanced. But yeah, they're it's funny like that. Just constant little
and that's it.
reminders of, hey, we're here. You're not paying attention to us.
Yeah, that we're not the only things in the world. And there's other people who live in our areas.
Yeah, like, you have a resident spirit in your home, and you know what to do to sort of keep him happy and appeased and what you do. And new house, I'm definitely figuring that out. So everything should hopefully, touch wood, work a little bit better now.
Yeah, he's thrilled right now. I redid my studio through the winter, and let's just say I erect a lot of things. You know, I have a rolling desk that's held together with washi tape in places. So yeah, I definitely went a little left of center with some of my renovation ideas and things. But you know, he's happy and I'm happy, and I have a new studio, so it's okay.
Got to keep the house spirits appeased.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, we are going to change the format up a bit. Next episode, we will be doing a book, and we're going to talk about incense, and then we are hoping to have some guests on. We're still going to talk about actually doing magic, and all the things we do throughout the months. But we also wanted to get in a few guests and just talk about the different things, and yeah, that's part of what we're going to do.
Awesome. I'm very excited for it. And I think that's something that we've sort of, we always do the same old sort of mantra of a herb and a book and talk about those. But then things like ritualistic incense. So recently I've been doing kafit, which is an ancient Egyptian one, which is probably what a few of you are familiar with out there. But I think there are things that we overlook too, of like the ritual and the intent into creating our magical items instead of just the intent of the herb and what it can be used for all the many ways. But what about when we sit down and create magical objects? So, yeah, incense I'm definitely excited for because we all use it. So,
yeah, and I think I've talked about doing tinctures in the past, but now I'm doing things more on an alchemical timing thing with digestion and separation and calcination and things. So, as well as working with the astrological timings. And so, you know, it's about going that next level deeper and pushing things like that. And, you know, I just had a big cleanup of all the altars around the house as we come up to All Souls Day and All Saints Day. You know, it's a good time to have that quick cleanup. You know, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, you know you've got Halloween coming and Samhain and things like that. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, don't neglect the fact that it's the Christian All Saints Day and Christian and All Souls Day, so Day of Dead thing. So those things are still relevant, even if it's not our Wheel of the Year kind of time of the dead. I think that there's still powerful things to continue to work with. What else? Well, the garden's been having lots of offerings and things. The mandrake have popped up. They got a little bit sunburnt because we had some unseasonably hot days, but they're okay. They'll be okay. And there's lots of overgrown, and I've got a million peaches growing. Like last year, I just went nuts, and I bought 6 peach trees. I like peaches.
How much do you like peaches?
Probably that much. I think it's compensating because I can't have a mango tree, you know? Then just a mango tree is just not going to grow. So, yeah, I think I'm overcompensating with peaches. But yes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for spring now the garden's all awake.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about incenses with you next time around because there's lots of different types of incenses and ways of using it in ritual and ways in using it in magic and things you can do with it after it's burnt. You know, there's just so many good things. So, but that's probably all from us this episode.
Short and sweet for the first one back.
Yeah, just a bit of an update. And, you know, we'll be back by the next new moon with a new and exciting episode for you. Thanks for spending time with us. Thanks to the saints who've joined us and the spirits and the plant spirits in our gardens. And, yeah, Rue.
The Fae especially.
And the Fae,
and massive
yes.
thanks to the Fae. I'm still waiting for a few things to be returned, but all in good time, I'm sure.
All in good time. It might take something a little bit more significant in offering to get that one back. So, excellent. Well, Rue, it's always a pleasure. Readers, you
Always.
can reach us at on Instagram at Garden of Ink and Bones. And you can find me at Belladonna and Bones on Instagram. And Rue, where can people find you?
We can find me at old_omen on Instagram is generally where I'm lurking. It's finally starting to kick off a little bit more again. And a huge thanks to everyone for actually waiting out this like big, dark, long period that we've both sort of been going through. So thanks again.
Lots of blessings on everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you guys.